Alrighty, welcome everyone. I'm Teeaboo and I am back for episode 2 of Le Portrait de Petit Cossette. I spent a little bit of time this morning looking at quotes from the picture of Dorian Gray, which I haven't read for many years, and I found it to be, surprisingly and unsurprisingly, an absolute wealth of thematically relevant bits of text. So much so that I had a real difficulty deciding whether I wanted to mention any of them, and if I decided to, which one I wanted to bring here in the beginning. But I have decided to begin our day today with the quote from Oscar Wilde: "Behind every exquisite thing that existed, there was something tragic." Because that, with the story that we seem to be telling here, stood out to me amidst all of the other quotes as deeply relevant. That there is something about the damage that creates beauty. Tragedy and pain and loss metabolize into something else. And that seems to be what this show is doing. What we're doing maybe literally and what we're doing thematically. There's been some violent act, and that has turned into this curse. And that curse has borne all of this passion and intrigue, and then from there, all of the artistry that conveys that to us. This beautiful pearl, almost, layered and layered over top of a little piece of grit or sand that irritates. There's something about that feeling of something terrible, something that you can't get out of, you can't remove from your mind once you know it, that's stuck there, that leads to creation. We see it in our main character, Ari, as he becomes obsessed with this glass, with the portrait, and with the story behind all of it. And his world is simultaneously overtaken by paranormal occurrences. It is as though the obsession itself is what creates the paranormal. As though the mental state of our protagonist is itself the curse, and it is brought about by beauty with tragedy behind it, by complexity, by the same thing, perhaps, that tempts me to be so interested in art. Perhaps it's even the same thing that tempts us all. Wilde was the kind of author who liked to write about such things, who liked to write in really broad terms. Wilde is also the author of one of my favorite pieces of work ever, The Critica's Artist, which is a dialogue wherein Wilde, through a character, presents and defends the idea that criticism is itself a form of art. At least that is how I have read it. And from that piece, Wilde writes, "What are the unreal things but the passions that once burned one like fire? What are the incredible things but the things that one has faithfully believed? What are the improbable things, the thing that one has done oneself? No, Ernest, life cheats us with shadows like a puppet master. We ask it for pleasure, it gives it to us with bitterness and disappointment in its train. We come across some noble grief that we think will lend the purple dignity of tragedy to our days, but it passes away from us, and things less noble take its place, and on some gray windy dawn or odorous eve of silence and of silver, we find ourselves looking with callous wonder or dull heart of stone at the tress of gold-flecked hair that we had once so wildly worshipped and so madly kissed." Tragedy inherent to beauty. And I think that's the right attitude for this piece. Even as we are just at the beginning of it, and as I will be the first to say that I deeply do not understand it, I'm drawn to it, like so much of art, by the beauty of it and by the stories behind it. And I think Ari is too, even if there's something supernatural about the pull that he experiences, the temptation that he feels. He and I think any who watch this piece, are somewhat the same. Shinbo has created this this view through refracted glass that's as enticing as the one that Eri becomes obsessed with. And I think we, gazing in through the lens, through the screen, are drawn, asked, called to become as obsessed and as intrigued with the strangeness of the events that are occurring. So with that in mind, I have some questions that I want to use going forward. Not really like big, broad framing questions. Some of them are. But just things that I've been wondering about since the last episode. I ended up scribbling a bunch of little like scribble doodles and things that are like, gosh, what do I have here even? I've got the glass and it's like shattering light all over, and I've got another glass and it's in front of a portrait, and I've got like a representation of the like, how did the curses get consumed by the hateful heart and then become a demon, and then we crucify that as though we're like holding down the urge to love/kill that's so unclear here. But questions. Who are the sunglass wearing people who are watching and observing and hidden and seem to be knowing things? They're hidden behind these lenses, mirror shades that we can't see through. It's also super interesting. I've been thinking about and writing cyberpunk stuff for the last week or so. I wrote this is an event that I need to start publishing fucking D&D game stuff and tabletop ideas, because I keep writing them and drawing them and making them. I don't know. But mirror shades are a whole thing. And I've been thinking about that. There's this element to the mirror shades idea of like not being able to see who's watching you, of being almost like a human security camera. And that's really the feeling that I get from these characters who are sitting around observing in this like shopping center. They seem to know what's going on and be like waiting for it, watching it. At least that's the implication that I get from the voiceover with the visual at the same time. Who is the dark-haired girl who offers the blood? Because there are a couple of different girls in play here. There is Cossette, the blonde, who is from hundreds of years ago in France, I think, or Italy. Anyway, it's Italian glass. It's fucking, I don't know. And there's some strange tragedy that went down there. And then there's a dark-haired, presumably Japanese girl who, in the moment of choice, actually hands the blood-filled chalice out to Eri. Who's that, and how is she related to this situation? I don't know. Who is the monk? I'm putting monk in quotes because it's just a vibe. It's not actually presented. Who watches the lights? We only see them for one, maybe two flashes, but there's a character sitting in Seiza with robes upon like what looks like an altar or a temple and sort of praying. And outside of that, somewhere else, we have this moment where all the lights gather up and leave. And it's implied very strongly that the monk is the one observing that and witnessing it, that they're sort of witnessing spirits in the area. Are they just a normal Shinto monk in the area? That's my guess. Will they come into play more interestingly? I sure hope so, because I like the character. I've gotten like two flashes of them and I'm intrigued. Crazy. I think let's stop there for a sec. Why the fuck am I intrigued by that? Because there's so little information there. But that doesn't do it, because you can just present something with very little information. It's not interesting. It's that the information that is there is compelling. To me, I find the information that is there to be compelling. Why? I don't know. I'm tempted to just chalk it up to masterful direction. I think that's very fun. Who is the pretty fortune teller with the side tail and the tarot cards? And how will she come into play? And while all of those questions have been they've been informational, right? Like, what's this? What's that? I have one more that's not. Is there a way to succeed or even survive? Cossette is already dead. The black-haired girl, I'm guessing, is also already dead, and maybe, like, part of, like, a cascade of tragedies. Like, she's the next in line of a series of tragedies that have happened around these objects. Cossette is already dead, and yet she appears inside the spirit place, that other zone. Aerie has agreed to help her. Can he? And what does that mean? What does helping her look like? What does she want? What does she need? Is this a solvable thing? Or is this a thing where the only solution is the end of everything? I don't know. I think the sheer fact of these questions, that they come up in me, that I need them answered, that I'm, like, genuinely really interested in having answers to some of these, that I want to jump back in and examine the view through the glass, the warped crystal again, and try to figure out what the fuck is going on here, and what the fuck is going on in the minds of the people who created this, and what the fuck they want to be going on in my mind, and what actually does happen in my mind as a result of it. I think that's evidence of greatness. Or at least something really cool. I am tempted by the story here. And although I said I wouldn't, I'll bring another quote from Dorian Gray. The only way to get rid of temptation is to yield to it. I don't know how to reconcile that one. I don't know how to reconcile that one with, like, the whole desire, temptation, Mara situation that's going on over here in Buddhist land. But we're going to just put that over here in Dorian Gray land, and we're going to keep those two ideas where they're safe. We'll figure out if they can ever blend together at any point. I'm really excited to watch another episode of Cossette no Shoujo. Let's dive in and watch this fucking Shinbo art thing and see if we find anything else out. I've got the episode 2, same version, same cry version of Cossette no Shoujo up and ready to go. 2 versions. Picture in picture in the description. Timer on YouTube. Beep beep timer to count you down. Let's go. I'm gonna have pen and paper ready. Are these his sketches? Endlessly drawing her. So she's speaking to him through him as he draws. And he's generating this relationship with this spirit entity through creation. Right? Striking. A very different color tone. CG. Ah. A doll, of course. We're watching through glass. These whoosh. Marcello? I'm guessing he's her killer. And maybe her love. Every time we show the doll, we don't show Cossette. It's like she's him, or she's the doll. Oh. Whoa. Lost in the glasses. Oh. Whoa, voices. Oh, she's above. Or right next door? Kurahashi nani attenda? Oh, the light's the monk. Whoa, beautiful. Split, separated. Oh my god, the chairs too. Shinbo! 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 You can't just draw Monogatari before Monogatari exists. She's the one in the arcade who has the sixth sense. Felt like you were going to disappear. Whoa. Hmm. Hmm. Forbidden love? Hmm. Related. Wow, that was a strange flash of the face in there. We're in a time fuck. There's a time and space fuck going on. Time and space are getting down and dirty. Ooh, croquettes. Ooh, she doesn't come when he calls. Demand response from your delusions? I don't know about that, bro. And he wrote that. On tracks. Wow, that is the clearest cut we've presented this. To have taken this on, this story, this idea. I love that the city skyline can become gothic. I don't think I've ever experienced this visual landscape of like gothic modernity. Head to head, tilt to boot. Whoa. The crescentist moon. I feel like she wants to. No, wait. I'm presenting something. That's not it. I don't know. Is it the need to exist? No, it's not. Ugh. Really dangerous feeling. God, the animation continues to be incredible, but like, what the fuck? What does that mean? Were those his drawings? So the subject doesn't want to be drawn, and his desperate need is to draw her. Oh, here they are. Hikikomori. He's right, but he's wrong. Oh, hello. Now we're blue-white. Now we're yellow-green. What the fuck are we doing? Now we're red. Okay. Answered my own question. What we're doing is colors. Hi, Cossette. You like the pretty colors? Seems like it. She gets to exist here, huh? Oh. The whooshy noises and the jumps to like what looks like animation on ones do so much legwork to make things feel spooky. It's like she's in all the hidden places. Oh. She's chasing it down. That's Aerie. The doctor looked at him early, yeah. She's saying it based on spirit shit, dude. Turn. Wow. No and no. So we're in that space between. I'm so glad that we get to meet her. Oh, that looked like lovers. Cool view. Big library. This looks like a location used in Penguin Drum? Hmm. She really wants to prevent him from escape. Yeah. You just need to tolerate suffering without thinking. How very, like, religious. She avoids the question every time. Yeah, right? Like, this is your purpose, is to tolerate suffering, deal, and be noble. That doesn't hold up. And it won't hold up for him. He wants more. That is not the meaning of fucking life. But where do we find it? And what the fuck was that? Ah! I don't know. We're so naturalistic. It's like the total opposite of our Gothic landscape. Gothic skyscrapers and this is them in the countryside. This is Cossette and Marcello. We're using Aries' voice for Marcello. But she's speaking now in the present. Pupper. Pupper. That pupper pups. Fuck. Oh, yeah. Carbon copy. Oh, and he's not even there. She's alone. Just framing. God, the framing is so freaking cool. And this world becomes dark. What? Where? What? Wait, so that's Aerie? Okay, so we're in a spiritual space. I didn't realize when we flashed through it to get there. When I said, like, what the fuck was that? But pain hurts. Hmm. Hmm. You're a talented painter and you love me. But nothing about her. I loved him very much. There it is. These flat backgrounds are so interesting. No. No, Cossette. No, I can't. Oh, but he can. Oh, to be understood. Whoa. To be understood, one must be seen, fully seen, heard, understood by one who is the same as one's destroyer. Attachment theory. Fuck! Anata wa Marcello. Oh, here we are. We jump back into this space. This is the same visual. Alone until... Sacrifice. Revenge. I assume that was Wei and Mei. So she wants to sleep, to be put to rest. The same. Ah. In me is that, huh. The umbrella in the chains is so cool. Whoa. Now we're fucking Edgar Allan Poe as shit. Oh, wow. She is actually pulling those souls out of him. Where are the lines, man? Where are the lines between reality and unreal? What the fuck? Oh, wow, we are fighting it. That is correct. How did she find him and bring him there? But they will wash it away. I don't know if you're strong enough, lady. I don't think so. This is real deal shit. Black water, white water, skull. Hi, Cossette. This is so cool. Oh, what the fuck? This clockwork hellscape. What is this place? Oh, it's the clock. Or something like it. She's magical girl putting it to sleep? And it's his voice. So he's taking on the soul of the antique so that she can pull it out and kill him? Kill it? So the I don't care about it stopped her. Whoa! The demon reaching out. But this is also a repeat of the murder. This sensation is what? The whole family. Oh, we see more. Frozen. Oh. Oh. Thus the clocks as well. And we are at Dorian Gray with youth eternal, right? That's why he's doing it. Whoosh. So I feel like Aerie just experienced that and gets that piece of the answer. Yeah, it's his eye now. The surrounding shatter. And he accepts it. Oh. What is this? I wonder. But he bears it because he's seen it, because he knows now. She's struggling. Whoa. Whoa. Hmm. Metabolized into something else. Tragedy becomes beauty, and then we repeat it. In the middle of the rain, too. She has no memory. Whoa, what the fuck? Hmm. She's tiny. Hmm. Oh. He can touch her now. They're able to connect. More seriously than they ever have. After ridding him of that piece of the curse. Yeah, what's actually going on in here? Oh, nothing, because that's out there. Fuck. Oh, all of the eye portraits. That's what she needs. Whoa. That was cool. That was cool. That was cool image manipulation. So this is going to be 3 minutes a song. I feel like we should just cut it. Feel my love is supported by the depth of the wounds I must atone for. That's just about right, isn't it? That's the story that we've got here. Our love is built out of the depth of the wounds that must be atoned for. So, Aerie has become the vessel of the killer and the cursed one because he has enough about him that is the same, that he is a great artist and that he loves Cossette. So the first step was falling for the painting, and that made him capable of taking the pact, the blood deal, and that signed him up for this, even though he didn't know what he was signing up for. We talked about that a little bit. So now he pursues answers, just as I did coming in. And we ended up getting them in so many interesting ways. And so many of them, like, tangentially in a way that doesn't matter. This episode is really interesting. I don't know if I find it as visually striking or as, like, shocking as the first episode. There are some elements that are, but I'm not sure, and I'm also not sure if that's just because I've seen the first episode, so I'm not surprised what happens here, or if there's something that's a little bit less. I feel like we're like 5% less on the, like, whoa scale. Does that make sense? I think part of that is that we reuse some elements, but I'm not really sure. Maybe it's just that there's a little bit less hard emphasis on visual camera tricks, like animation camera trick sort of things. There's incredible beauty, and there are lots of camera tricks and lots of thematic tricks where we have voices going and it's unclear where or when or who or how, like how all that's happening, or we cut from one thing to another and it's unclear spatially where we went, but it doesn't feel like it's unclear in a way that's a mistake. I want to make that clear. It doesn't feel like, oh, Shinbo didn't know how to transition us from this thing to that other thing in a way that made sense, and so he did it in a way that was flubby. It feels like the weirdness of this situation is that we're supposed to not know where we are. Not have our feet under us, right? Like, not have the grounding to stand on. I don't know. So he's relating to Cossette, and he's doing these drawings at the same time. And it's through drawing her that he gets, like, closer to her. Like, the image of her becomes clearer as he draws more. Even though he's drawing from mind instead of from eye. There's something about this relationship between artist, subject, art, the piece of art itself, and then observer, art, subject, artist. Like, the chain goes forward and then the chain goes back when you observe it. So you start with the subject. The artist observes the subject and forms a relationship to the subject, then generates a piece of art out of it. And then the artist and the subject both have this relationship to the piece of art, but they're also detached from it, right? They die, the art piece goes on, and it has an influence as the observer witnesses it, observes the piece of art, has a relationship with the piece of art itself physically, and then a relationship with the subject of the art, who they're looking at, and then a relationship with the creator of the art, who's the one who's converted that subject into this art form. So the chain goes forward and the chain goes back, and it ties them together. And this relationship is like what we're investigating here. And all of that is happening inside a piece of media, which we ourselves are observing as an observer and forming our own relationship with a piece of art. Okay. There's a reason that this gets a little bit funky and complicated, and it's because it's a little bit funky and complicated, methinks. Visual tone is immediately so different from the previous episode. I think it's really cool. I want to understand you more, Cossette. Music boxes, clicking things, and wind-ups. And then that carries on to our end game for the episode, which is clocks and machine parts, but wind-up boxes too. You wind it up, and then it goes, and it's a machine. It goes on a particular track, and it doesn't stop until it runs out of energy, right? It doesn't stop until it burns itself out. It has to. We're seeing Cossette genuinely, in full, directly, not through glass. And I don't think that this really struck me as important as it is until now. I think all of our previous interactions with Cossette have either been in weird fantasy world or through glass, like her running on pieces, running on mirrors. He rewinds the machinery and she thanks him. Visually, this element scares me, or it icks me. We show Cossette doing something, and then we cut, and it's the doll that we show doing it, as though the doll is the face that we're looking at. It creates this connection, this sort of mishmash. It's almost like Kuleshov, but it's not quite. This mishmash between the doll's face and Cossette's face, and she becomes inanimate and inhuman and doll-like. There's all this that she's willing to tell him, and now we're looking through glass. There is glass in front of us. And every time she moves, as though we're in aquarium noises or listening to water flowing, but it's her. It's strange. Faces, Marcello. And then it's changed, deeply changed, and she ignores it until she can't. When she sits down, it's the doll who's sat down in front of him. You draw really well. And it drops to black and white, and she's gone. I'm sorry. I'm getting stuck in this mode of like just going through it and saying what's happening. I really don't like doing that. I end up getting stuck doing it because I'm so like fascinated by what's there, and then I want to extrapolate out and parse it. Give me a sec. Let me take a sec, and then I'll come back. Okay, I took my little break, and I come back with a first thought, which is that I'm really glad that I brought up Dorian Gray at the beginning of this episode because of the freezing of time that happens in that novel, and that it's kind of about. It makes me think that Shinbo is very actively trying to create his own take on something like it, because that is the pivotal element of the story, is the idea that paintings don't change. And it is the pivotal idea of this story, too, that Marcello, a man, became obsessed with the unchanging nature of paintings and tried to impose it upon reality. To kill her, to keep her as she was. Perfect in his eyes. There are other layers to that. There's a hebephilic or pedophilic layer that I don't want to dive into super far, but it's kind of fucked up, right? An ideal of beauty. And at the same time, we're looking at the 1700s. So it's like, okay, that actually tracks. Fucked up as it is. And then our story says to us, that sin is your sin too, to Aerie, kind of. Right? You're the same as he is. And in the same way, for the same reasons, for the same love, you will try to capture and keep her. I'm reminded, I said when it came up, that it makes me feel it's like religious. It's like religious. This idea that it's inherent in you, that there's this darkness that you cannot run away from, is very reminiscent of like original sin, Children of Cain type of stuff, right? It's that like, that line of you're born of flesh and so that's all you can ever be. And then comes the question of why does she want to be, why him? Why does she want to be understood by him? Why to be seen by him? Why someone like the one who killed her? To be understood, one must be seen by one who is the same as one's destroyer, is what I wrote down. And it's not quite right, but it's pretty fucking close. Psychologically, I've been doing a lot of investigation into attachment theory, into the way we pattern ourselves in youth, in our earliest moments, and how we seek out in our adulthood people who hurt us in the same ways. Because that's the way that we have learned to feel seen, and learned is what attachment is. So if you have parents who can't cope with your emotions very well and pull away from you when you're emotional, you will seek out partners and people in your life who can't cope with your emotions very well and pull away from you when you're emotional. And you'll try to live out the same story and unconsciously hope that you'll live it out with a different ending, and unconsciously live it out in exactly the same way so that it has the same ending. Unless you can become conscious of it. Unless you can become aware of it and work against it, you will live it out again. Both by seeking out those types of people and by seeking out the same kinds of interrelationships. And the reason behind it is that that's what your spirit needs to feel seen. You have to be hurt in the same way that you were hurt when you were young in order to feel loved. So I'm reminded of that. I'm reminded of that when I look at Cossette becoming attached to a man who is her killer, symbolically. It's like, why? Wouldn't you do the opposite? And the answer is no. For it to be fixed, healed, ironed out, solved, for her to be able to go somewhere else and have eternal sleep, which is what she wants, it has to be put to rest. And it has to be put to rest by someone who can stand in as a stunt double, at least, for the person who hurt her. Oh, that took a lot out of me to get out of me. Okay. All of that extrapolated out and placed into a context where we can't critique it in the same way that we would an insecurely attached relationship, right? Like, clearly, Cossette and Aerie, weird relationship, lots going on here. Also, she's a specter ghost and she's dead, and he's a little guy who draws stuff in an antiques shop, and he didn't murder her. Like, that's not it. We can't just go in and be like, well, now that we understand that, we can totally iron out your relationship and you can live happily ever after. No, fuck. But we can maybe understand, whether they were conscious or not, some of the elements of human psychology that might be brewing in the background that contribute to the visual representation of the unspeakable that we're presented here by Shinbo. Because that's sort of what art like this kind of storytelling art is. This is speaking the unspeakable. This is giving voice to those things that we don't necessarily have words for. But we do have the words for them. They're just found deep in clinical psychology and in weird religious stuff. And to get anything like concise understanding, we have to condense, we have to compress, and we have to turn them into media like this. But we can unpack them too. And I think that that's a piece that I'm stuck on. Like, I think that I'm doing the Wordle, and that's a right letter. That letter's in the right place for me. Is like, it has to be him because he's like the monster. And he's like the monster. And it has to be someone who's like the monster because that's how trauma gets healed. Because that's the kind of bond that we seek out. Because that's the kind of tragedy that we find beautiful and compelling. She brings color in, and it's unwanted. We find our answers. Some of them. I think that these red sequences are beautiful. This, and then this. Kizu. It's, again, amazing to me how much of Shimbo's language is so coherent already, and how much of it will transfer on to elsewhere. Like, we place our two characters facing out from each other with, like, sparkly percolating light from windows, just like Monogatari with the window lights, right? Same golden hour, golden tones, and then chairs mangled and tangled up in front in a way that they could not be. It's like, all we need are cutaways of chairs, like, flying across the room and stuff in random and weird ways in between interactions and in between conversational beats to, like, punctuate them in ways that aren't comprehensible, but then add something to your subconscious. And then we're in pure Monogatari land, right? Fuck. It's so cool. I wanted to show this to you, and we've got all this information, and then suddenly he's elsewhere. Right? That's the feel that I get. He's behind glass or something. Portraits of Cossette. He said the words! There's something in him that speaks. And your style has become him. Oh, man. It's so fucking Edgar Allan Poe-y, you know? It's like, oh, you just can't help your drawings becoming like the dead master of this house. How weird. He's even signing the paintings in his name. He's becoming him. These moments, I gotta comment on these, because we haven't brought them up yet. These moments where we're in totally normal territory and then stuff is, like, vibrating, shaking with just energy. I think they're really cool. They infuse the scenes where they happen with this sense of tension. Barely withheld tension that bursts forth into our big visual extravaganza, destroy the machinery sequences later. Why does he interest me? And then we're on train tracks. I really liked this moment. I didn't comment on it when it happened, but I really liked this moment. We get to the peak of, like, questioning without answers for Eri. Why? Why am I interested in this? Self-questioning, right? What the fuck is wrong with me? And we jump to train tracks. Now you're stuck. You're on a path. I met, and we just say it out clearly. I met the spirit of a girl and inherited the soul and the fate of the man who killed her. It's crazy, but it's good in its own way. After all, and there she is, I've fallen in love with her, and it's what she wanted. And, man, I gotta mention this sequence because this sequence makes me think of some of the early sequences in Angel's Egg, where we're introduced to this, like, gothic city of fishers. There are, like, shadows swimming across the streets and feet running, but then it's oil lamps and wrought iron scroll work and buildings and spaces and hallways and alleys and grand buildings with strange shadows and movement and shifting. And it's like, that to me is gothic anime. It's what it looks like. And this looks like that. But it's the cityscape that we're familiar with. It leans so heavily on having these little bits of wrought iron mixed in amongst the city street signs. But I've only seen stuff like this in Shinbo's work. And Ikuhara's. There's a lot in this episode that's Ikuhara-esque as well. There was in the last two. But these moments, the crows in the garbage of the city, these crawling skylines, these street lamps, and then conversion to strange street lamps, right? Like jumping between real space and other space. It's modern Gothic. It's an aesthetic that I don't think that I've ever seen before. Not like this. I really like it. It's like, I want to take from it. I want to build it into the world that I'm trying to create a cyberpunk world for RPG reasons. I want to build this into it. Light and shadow, the city of red. It's so striking. Don't mention that name ever again. It's a beautiful shot of her dropping away. Almost a doll. Strange. And then all the pictures he's drawn are gone. Confetti. Who's behind the glasses? We don't know. They're just there. So it is about a girl. So much of this episode is placed sideways, and I don't know if there's a coherent reason. Like, all scenes with Mataki being confused are sideways. I'm just not sure. Color. As though we're looking through stained glass? Or is it just to offset and make us feel like we're entering the semi-ethereal? Because it's here that Cossette will begin literally running around the shopping arcade. Like she's becoming more. Like she's here truly and genuinely. There's another moment of like, yeah, we jump to ones as though it's like smoothed. They set her aside and make her so ethereal and strange. And as we cut, she explores and the priest runs until she gets here, seeking her, hunting her. Senshimi. My favorite piece is science omnipotent? Is your sixth sense omnipotent? And in between we say, probably there are things that neither can explain. I guess it's the lovers. A love he's risking his life on. Yeah, so I want to mention it again just because it happens here. We've got a clock. We're upright. We're 90. We're at like 3 o'clock. Halfway. It doesn't... I don't think there's any like coherence to it. I really think that this location is genuinely in Mawaru Penguin Drum. I don't know. Just a big library. But he's desperate to find information. You don't dislike being drawn. You don't need to know such things. You just need to tolerate suffering without thinking about anything. That is not a palatable thing to hear. That is not a palatable thing to hear. It's not the answer that any of us is happy to hear, right? That doesn't cut it. On a much broader scale, in a bigger sense. In life, we are not okay with this. I'm not. You can tell me if you are, but I'd venture to guess that you're not. Tolerate suffering without thinking about anything. Doesn't work for me. That generates a lot of struggle because our world is very suffering heavy. Some of those religious traditions that I'm interested in would posit that it's the root of everything, even. That it's all there is, and that one must tolerate it. But never without thinking about anything. Without asking for answers, without seeking insight. Just keep your head down and keep going. For what? Why? I want to know. I want to know why I was chosen. Why am I the one who must suffer? And for what? And this moment is so different visually. It's like not shadowless, but like so stark in its shadow. Like he's a paper cutout almost. No depth in the darkness. It's really fascinating. A complete style shift. And she's gone. I am just to tolerate suffering. She leaves him without an answer. And then we warp, and we're in the French countryside. And is it Mart? I don't know. I guess this is still 80 speaking to the spirit of Cossette within the realm of their house in a spirit place. I don't know. There's the dog, and the dog runs right past her, but why? I don't know. And then there's a dramatic change to everything. Our flat scenery becomes compressed, storybookish. I don't know what it is. Something changes visually, and I can't put my finger on it. And then it changes again to here. Darkness, cold, wind, death, this gray fog. I'm probably jealous of him. He's trying to figure it out. We start putting elements over in front of them, the branches, the reeds, and then the bamboo, the grasses. If that's true, that painting, I don't know what he's talking about here. So we flash back and forth, and we're flashing into his eyes, and then it's those eyes, the red eyes. Marcelo is within me. Her eyes. I will tell you why I chose you. And it's as simple as can be. You are a talented painter, and you love me. That's it. You're the same as Marcelo. Sideways. Ah, the branches. Love and love, yet he, can you understand? No. How could you understand? You can't. But you can because you are him. I I am personally of the belief that most every human being is capable of the greatest evils committed by any human being, given circumstance and a couple other similarities. And I think that that's what we're cutting to here. We're cutting to it on a very personal level. We're saying that Aerie is Marcello. But my mind sees this and I hear, he was a man and you're a man. And I don't mean that gendered even. He was human and you're human. How could I understand the betrayal of Cain? Because I am of the blood of Cain, right? Would be the religious sort of answer. How can I understand the betrayal and murder created by Marcello? It's because your love stems from the same kind of place, the same kind of obsession. It's because you have the seeds of the same deadly tree in your heart. Having never acted on them, having never thought about them, how can you understand, how can you empathize? Because you are the same. I try to take that attitude toward everything, and it hurts. Maybe it's overambitious, or maybe it's self-flagellatory, but I don't see it as such. I see it as growth. It does hurt, though, to try to expand your mind to include the possibility of horribleness. That is why I have practiced it, and why I think it needs practice, why I think it's important. I've spent time imagining myself on the wrong side of the bars. I've spent time imagining myself in the wrong uniforms, putting people on the train cars that I've seen, ushering people into the chambers that I've seen. I spent time trying to wrap my mind around how I could be them so easily. To repress that part of me that wants to repress it. To push back against that part of me that says, no, I would be good. I would refuse that order. I wouldn't pull that trigger. I wouldn't flip that switch. I wouldn't tell those children to get on that train. But those things happen, and they happen at the hands of young men like me. Of humans like me. So it is a fool who says he's not capable of those things. I really believe that. And I think we're exploring something like it here. That love that you have, that passion that you feel, Aerie, is the same feeling that if improperly metabolized turns into murder. And that's why it's your curse to bear. It's because you come from the same flesh, the same bone and blood. How could he have killed you even though he loved you? Why don't you watch? It's happening right now. Whoosh. And then, from the outside of the glass, looking in, unable to change the past, an incredible visual. Good enough that we use it twice. Bam and blood. And he witnesses. But we don't. We don't get to see it yet. Just a blink. Boom. 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 Really striking. The same smell. You are Marcello. So we jump from that landscape pastoral sequence back to the cross, skull, endless, strange. Their hatred entrapped my soul, compelling me to wander. I missed that, and so you must atone. Patiently endure. And he can't yet. That is the only way in which I may escape to an eternal slumber. So, a bunch of visuals that we've seen before. The same as Marcello. Someday I will think the same things he did and kill Cossette. We pull the black and white away. Why must I endure? Kurahashi, Kurahashi. Why does the tangled chain untangle itself? As the tension that she's holding on to releases? I think so. Because she's trapped, she's caught up in this, like, anger and frustration. And then it dispels visually through the chain dropping, and then she treats him with some compassion. But then she sees what she should not see. That his heart is being torn out. Whoa. How did the clock get there? I don't know. But suddenly it begins to whip into motion, and we do a fucking Buddha battle, and it does not Buddha work. At all. The love of the Buddha has no power here. But Kurahashi does. He calls out for Cossette, and there's a dark ripple. He calls out for Cossette, and there's a white ripple. Blackness, and then we're here. Clocks. Machinery. Pieces. As though we're inside a great mechanism. I don't understand the visual landscape here at all, except that we're in fucking Maho Shoujo destroy the thematic thing as though it was real. I guess that's exactly what we're doing, is that this is the spirit of the clock, and the clock is what is attacking and destroying, and she is attempting to, like, exorcise it. You must not move. You do not have the right to disobey me. But he still questions, to atone. But it is not me. He says, I don't care about that, and it breaks down. Dismissing. I don't care. It doesn't matter. It's not mine. Not my responsibility, not my sin, not my bullshit. Not mine, I don't care. And that ends what she's doing. Tears it all down. All because he doesn't want to die. So he descends to her. I don't want to lose the light of life and the bright future. Selfish. But fair. Placed as a sacrifice unwillingly for this girl, like, I don't want to lose life. He descends to her eyes and he touches her. Holds her as Marcello did. This sensation is. We don't get to find out here, but he pulls away and he leaves her be and he lets himself be pulled back up. We cut here and show the murder. So it's here. We saw him see it before, but now we jump in and we get to see it. And he gets to understand it. As he's just looking at the portrait, And then he sees the death. Why are you trying to become an adult? You're betraying this beauty that we've created. Don't you get it? You're going to rob the world of your perfection. That can't be allowed. Crystallizations of beauty. But I love you. I love you too. So that piece clicks into place, no longer a puzzle. And his red demonic eye switches to Ares. So now it's Ares in the chains, and he consents willingly. He dives in past the spirit of fear of death and of anger at the pain being caused to him, and he willingly and consciously sacrifices. He knows that he's not Marcello, but he still willingly takes on the mantle. That's my read here. Just like I know that there isn't a dude named Cain who's my great ancestor, you know? You talk to some religious folks and they will full believe that. I don't think so. And yet I can still, like, in denial of that, very consciously accept the mantle of, like, no, yeah, born imperfect, made of flesh and stuff, have pain and anger and death and destruction in my heart, am formerly a chimpanzee. They rip each other's meat from the bones with their teeth. That's where we come from. That's why we have fucking canines. Like, oh, I can accept that and I can, like, work with it and feel the sacrifice inherent to it. But then something else. Here you are in love with someone and they're in love with you, and they're in love with you because you hurt them the right way. Because that's the flip side of what I said earlier. You know, you go seeking people who will hurt you the right way in order for you to feel loved, but they're going to fall in love with you because you hurt them the right way. In some ways, they'll fall in love with the pain that you caused them. Even if it's not pain that you caused them, it's just similar to pain that was caused to them by someone in the past. By a parent who hurt them really badly, or someone else who hurt them really badly. And you're not that person, right? And it's unfair for you to take on, like, the image of the suffering that your partner is experiencing. But if you want to help your partner, maybe there's a world, a way in which you can take that on and accept it and be that, what did I say? Stunt double? Who can go through the tough scenes with them when the real actor isn't in their life anymore. Because that's often the case. You'll meet someone and you'll form a bond, a powerful one, and a desire to help them and to save them maybe. But you don't realize that what you're trying to save them from is like an image of self. And that maybe you have to step into the darkness of that image to play that story out so that it can have another ending. You know? I don't know. I know that I'm blathering a little bit. I'm trying to use my words to point at something that's beyond the horizon of what I can understand. And I try to do that often, but it shows like this that are themselves pointing beyond a horizon that evoke that most powerfully in me. So Cossette struggles. And it takes more than one try. There's this pull of machinery that wraps around her, strips her, I guess she was already nude, entangles her in vines, and then reclothes her. Again, weird sexual stuff going on, right? Yes. But also strangely romantic in the period era type of way, where nudity is a little bit less than profane. How about that? That's the exact word that I'm looking for, where nudity is not profane. Like, I don't feel like she's bare here to sexualize her. Does that make sense? I might be wrong, but I don't feel like it's here to sexualize her. I feel like it's here to represent a stripping bare. A seeing truly, maybe. Stop. She emerges and collapses again. And gets up again, and she's stumbling the entire time. And she's having as much of a struggle with this as he is. We get this striking bam. Like a bolt from the blue, and it's her represented in clarity, the first clarity that we've seen. I want this as a wallpaper. I love Cossette in the same way, but I am different. I choose. And I choose that I can endure. As the clock burns, the spirit, the curse with it. And we meet here in this strange angelic place, and he tells her that he found her so fragile. And that he sees her. He sees her enduring. And he refuses to let her do it alone. So for the first time where it's willing, intentional, they touch. And this connection is real now. Yeah? She can feel his warmth. It only came after he accepted the potential of his own violence, of repeating the mistakes of the past, and chose to endure the pain of experiencing that, of thinking it through, perhaps, and then chose to refuse it. That's when they're able to connect. As he bleeds onto the floor, this real girl who's really in love with him in the real world feels like something has been taken from her. Another tragedy, maybe at the heart of another beautiful thing. I don't know. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, then an episode of animation can be worth an uncountable number. I don't know how many words I've spoken about the portrait de Petit Cossette so far, but it doesn't feel like enough. It feels truly like Shinbo is creating something great. Both for cinema and for literature and for me. So, enamored with media, as I always am, I say thank you, Akiyuki Shinbo, for creating this fucking thing. And thank you to all you weirdos who joined me in watching it. I hope that you've enjoyed the weirdness. I sure have. And I look forward to the third and final episode of the Portrait of de Petit Cossette, which we will pick up next week. Thank you so much for watching me observe and experience and get my mind warped by this one. I really enjoyed it, and I hope you did too. I'll see you next week for more. Much love. Peace.